wanted to start off the eulogy with a clip from the song. Hopefully it's loud enough to be heard. A life with love is a life that's been lived. Ed Sheeran in the song Supermarket Flowers you just heard. I can't think of a better way to start off a eulogy about my dad, Joseph M. Petric, than with a quote from a song. And even though Supermarket Flowers is about a mother, not a father, I can't help but look out in the audience today and see a lot of love, which is appropriate because my dad lived one hell of a life. Now, for those who don't know, you have to emphasize that middle initial in our family, right? Because there's always been at least 2 Joseph Petrics on this earth for every generation of people that are in this room today, until last week. But hopefully this speech won't dwell on that fact too much today. I'd prefer to celebrate the life of my father rather than mourn his death. So today I want to focus on who Joe Petric was, what made him special, and why he means so much to me. Now, I know this is a funeral, but it's not an obituary. I'm not just going to list a bunch of basic information or traits about my dad. I'm going to talk about who he really was. So I didn't know Joe before he was 30, but from what people tell me, he was a pretty cool dude. He rode a motorcycle, he drove sports cars, he went hunting, he smoked cigarettes, he played a guitar in a rock band, and I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures around here, but he had some pretty kick-ass hair too, right? Even when it was permed. I remember he had a scar on his back from when he got knifed one time, and I know this is crazy, but I used to think that was the epitome of cool. Stupid, I know, but he was always just a tough guy to me. But for as tough as he was, he suffered. And I don't mean after he lost his leg in a car crash when he was 45, or after he lost his second leg earlier this month. He suffered his entire life. Joe was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes in the 1960s at the age of 9, but he could have had it earlier undiagnosed. He would tell us that it was caused by an intense fever he had when he was younger, but who really knows? Times were different then. Diabetes, especially so young, seemed like a death sentence, and in some ways today, that's true. My dad would tell me this story about how an insurance salesman came to our house shortly after my parents got married and told him that he wouldn't sell him insurance because he was just too high risk and that he would probably die in the next 15 years. Well, that guy must not have known Joe Petric very well because my dad was too stubborn to die in 15 years. Him and my mom were married for 34 years, more than twice as long as that guy thought he would live. So that shows you how hard he worked and how he never gave up. And like I said, my dad may have been cool, but wasn't very lucky. He was dealt a bad hand in the game of life, you know? He would spend his days getting ready to go deer hunting every year with his brother, my Uncle Edward, and my grandpa, Joseph W. I mean, every year, multiple times a year, he'd spend days getting ready for this. And they'd go over and over, but as many times as he went, he never got a deer. Never got a deer. Another example of his bad luck, he would set his alarm clock for 3 in the morning. And those of you who know him, he loved space, he loved Star Wars and the X-Files and sci-fi, and he would set his alarm at 3 in the morning to wake up and go see meteor showers. And he did it even until very recently. He never saw a meteor. Never got to make a wish on a shooting star. But you know what? He never gave up. And as much as he suffered, he stayed positive and he did it the right way. He counted his carbs, his sugars, he watched his sodium, he ate a salad every day. He maintained a routine and tried to stay healthy. When I was a kid, I didn't know diabetes even meant anything. Like, I thought you just injected yourself in the leg and you were just like everybody else. That was it. He was that good. Until he got in his car accident and lost his leg 15 years ago, I maybe saw him with low blood sugar twice my entire life to that point. And that's just the level of dedication he has. The level of dedication most people don't have. And that's just a small example of what makes my dad so special. Now, I may be my father's only child and his namesake, and of course he loved me. But the love of his life was always my mom, Elaine. He showed me how to really love and treat a woman, and nothing is more special than that. My parents had been married for 34 years, but it wasn't exactly love at first sight. My mom actually thought he was a creep. He used to drop off flowers on her porch, flowers on her car. He would wait outside for her at the Cleveland Clinic, waiting for her to get out of work. And my mom tried like heck to avoid him and play hard to get, but Joe Petric was too persistent.
Yep.
One time, he was literally chasing her around in a car. She was in her blue Camaro, he was in his white Mazda. I like to think of it as like a game of Pac-Man, right? My mom was Mrs. Pac-Man, and she was being chased by this white ghost named Corky. But anyway, they were chasing each other. She brake checked them. She slammed on her brakes, and they ended up rear-ending each other. They lied to everybody about it and said that, they got hit in a parking lot or something like that. He was very persistent. It was funny. My parents' friends, Liz and Bob, they're here today. They introduced them. They used to set them up on dates. They would set them up on dates that they didn't even know they were going on sometimes, parties or bars. And my dad one time followed my mom around so much that my Aunt Joanne got him kicked out of the bar. She was always the bouncer in our family. So, I guess stalking laws have changed a little bit since then.
Right.
But Aunt Joanne will still get you kicked out of a few bars, so watch out. But like I said, my dad never gives up. And boy, did he hit the jackpot on the slot machine of marriage when he met my mom.
Yep.
He won my mom's heart with food, of course. He used to cook her dinner, they'd eat under candlelight, and he was always such a gentleman.
He was.
When he asked Elaine to marry him, she said, "Ooh, I'm not the marriage type." She said yes anyway, obviously.
It's for real.
He devoted his entire life to me and my mom. He traded in his motorcycle and his Firebird for daycare trips and diapers, which in that day, not every guy was taking their kid to daycare or changing diapers. My mom jokingly says, "I carried you like a football. He carried you like a carton of eggs. He was gentle, caring, and loving." I mean, what a perfect fit. A lady that spent her whole life, her whole childhood dreaming of being a nurse and a juvenile diabetic. She took care of him all the way to his dying days, and he kept fighting just for her. He would stick up for her even when he knew she was wrong. Pooch and Poochie, as they would call each other. The caregiver and the feisty warrior. My dad liked to keep to himself for the most part, but he was also an extremely passionate and proud man. Now, Joe had few friends, but the ones he had were true friends. You had to be, because you had to put up with his my way or the highway attitude, right? Anybody who knows him knows that's true. He's also a Slovenian man. He took a lot of pride in his heritage, even the stereotypes. So towards the end of his days, when he started buying windows and spending his money a little more freely, we really knew something was wrong. But, as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, nothing great can be accomplished without enthusiasm, and my dad just did just that. He stayed positive despite all his problems. He worked hard every day so that he could give me a life that only he could ever dream of, and he accomplished that. Isn't that what every parent hopes to achieve, a better life for their children?
Right.
My dad delivered. That's why he means so much to me, because thanks to his hard work, we have so many amazing memories together. We did it all, man. Fantasy football, Star Wars movies, collecting cards, winning baseball championships, eating ice cream at Dairy Queen, win or lose. Family vacations to Disneyland or Hershey, Pennsylvania, or somewhere with a roller coaster. You name it, me and my dad did it. I remember when the Millennium Force came out at Cedar Point, we rode every single roller coaster in the park, and we got t-shirts with a checklist on the back just to prove it. I made him ride the double loop like 12 times, over and over and over again, and my mom just sat there waiting for us to finish. Holidays were the best. I remember always having the best Christmases because my mom would spoil me with gifts, and my dad would stay up all night putting together the latest Megazord from Power Rangers, or arranging the Ninja Turtle action figures in a way that was really cool because he knew I would love it. And waking up the next day, you know, probably after not sleeping, I'd come downstairs and see him in his pajamas. It was the only time he wore his pajamas, was on Christmas Day. He was like a big kid. It was the best. But I think the 4th of July may have been his favorite holiday. He loved the cookouts. He loved shooting off fireworks with his family.
Yeah, he used to shoot those fireworks.
He used to give me a sparkler or a pump
We
or
could
whatever
run.
it was and let me light off bottle rockets in the backyard. It was so cool. And we'd stay up until 10 o'clock and watch the fireworks in our backyard in Euclid and just take it all in. It was amazing. And I'll always have those memories. My dad was also a teacher. He taught me how to lay shingles, change tires, anything that you wish your father could teach you. But most of all, he was my coach. He took me to every basketball practice. He coached me in football, coached me in baseball. He coached me in life too. You know, according to my 12-year-old baseball card somewhere, which is half a lifetime ago now, I was 5 feet tall, 123 pounds, and every bit his son. I remember climbing into his red pickup truck on Saturdays for baseball games and thinking it was the biggest truck in the world. My dad would coach, and my mom would keep score. After hitting pop flies and ground balls to warm up the team, my dad would spend hours of his weekends with a bunch of misfits trying to win a game that didn't matter, take us all for ice cream, pay for it out of his pocket, and then drive us home, cook dinner, stay up late watching sports or a movie that I shouldn't watch or play video games with me. It was the best. Then the next day, he would be the first person up cooking breakfast for all of us. I thought he was the strongest man in the world. You know, I used to put posters on my wall of Omar Vizquel or Michael Jordan or Ken Griffey Jr., but when people asked me who my hero was, I would say it was my dad. I just wish I could have done more. I just wish I had more time. But you know what? He gives me the courage to face any adversity life throws at me, including this. And he will live on not only through me and my mom, but through everyone's life that he ever touched. Diabetes may have taken away some of his physical abilities, but it never took away his mind. It never stopped him from caring. His heart may have been weak, but his spirit was strong. And that's my dad in a nutshell. The cool, passionate guy that defied the odds, kept fighting off diabetes for 50 years, overcoming the bad hand he was dealt, only to hit the jackpot with his wife, be a hero for his son.
That's right.
And I know this is sad, but he's at peace now. He's no longer suffering, and he can party it up with friends and family that he misses most. He can drink beer without fear. He can eat pizza and pasta and ice cream and enchiladas and probably dance with his new legs, you know, for the first time in a decade and a half. So I'm going to ask you all to commemorate Joe by keeping his memory alive and celebrating his life, because as the movie Sandlot would say, heroes live forever,
I love that.
but legends never die. So
Yeah.
keep telling stories about him. Tell them over and over again. Tell them to people who have never met him, because my dad is a hero, and his legend must live on forever in all of us. And as the song said at the beginning, heaven got another angel, and welcome home, Dad. God bless. Thank you.